artist.
It's so exciting. It's almost in a time warp, isn't it? It's stopped. There's boats sunk and there's boats in dilapidated states, and there's nothing modern about it. It's such an oldie worldy place, you know. Everywhere you look, it's just a mass of little details everywhere. It doesn't matter where you look. If you're looking down there at these boats and sort of and so forth, and the little groups of grass that pop up into the water, which they're unusual for a start. And the seagulls are all over the place. So they add to it because they're a bit more sort of, that's a bit of life going on. And all the sails are going and the masts are clicking, and there's a tremendous amount. It really is, what's that? There's a drawing I done sort of earlier of the boat that sort of, if you can see that, I don't know if you can see that, but it's quite simple drawing. It gives a load of detail in there that I can sort of get into and make a really good painting of it. The colours will probably be completely different when I start painting it, but it's a lovely shape. And if you can see it in reality, apart from my drawing, it's got almost a mildew over it. It's got a grey sort of earthy colours. There's lichens are sort of growing on it virtually, and there's rust on every single bit of posts. And right the way through, it's like that all the way through this area. It really is quite a magic area, really. It's ideal for an artist. That's incredible, that. It really is. I don't know what birds' eggs they are, but they do look like birds' eggs. What's the textures, isn't they? Yeah. Because that'll be in a picture eventually. Yeah, that's smashing. These are just drawing tiny incidental pieces because the pattern and shapes in there are lovely. They're really sort of, and it's quite dense and thick, and it creates a tremendous texture. And I can use this either in the back of a picture or a front of a picture. If I use it in the front, I'll enlarge it so it's great big, and I'll add to it, put texture, more texture on it than that's there actually. And what it does, the chains bend and twist, so you get lovely lead-in to your pictures. So it's a part. All my pictures are composed so your eye wanders through them so you can look through. And these chains and odd little bits and pieces like this help me to sort of give the person a viewpoint to lead into the picture so it carries on and creates a lovely composition. We're nearly there, just about finished really. Because it's only a mere detail, but you'll never make a big picture obviously. So it's just a sort of, a little bit I can grab hold of, and it's sort of to put into the big picture. I think we're about there, don't you? All right. So tuck into another little spot. Getting a bit little damp today, it is. So pity. I'll shut that up. Keep it down my bag. The first person who bought my pictures was a man called Mr. Mead in the printing factory who had the vicarage down there, a really big house, so it could take a lot of pictures on its walls. It had a terrific wall area. So, and he must have bought, I think, about 30 paintings all in total.
I think really, you know, it was the vitality to start with of the paintings and the compositions. On a lot of these paintings here, they've got 5 people in them, and you look at the people, they're all very intense in what they're doing. Never noticed the casting was in the shape of a ban the bomb symbol until George painted it, and of course I went out and there it was on the press. I've still got that press outside, and you look at what appears to be the exaggerated movements and distortion of the characters, like this one over here. When you look at people working at things, and even in their leisure, and people, when they're not aware that you're looking at them, you see people, and they have their sort of arms up like this and their legs over one way. And I was in the pub with George one night, and we were looking at the people along the bar, and you'll see somebody sort of scratches his ear and he's drinking a pint like this, and you see all of these funny movements, and you see all of these in George's paintings. It's the figures in them that really dominate the paintings, dominate the total composition, and I find that fascinating.
Oh, really good. There's enough information in this picture really for quite a good composition, because I lose after it. All this detail in there, which is lovely. That's the best part of the picture, all that detail. Then I can work figures in between, because the figures are more important than anything else in my compositions. So structurally, that's a nice shape, that sort of nice big curve. Everything's pushed into the middle there. So it'll give you a really good structure of figures to work on. And this sort of cement mixer and these trestles, you can either put people up high or low down, so it's a very good sort of composition structurally for me to work on afterwards when I get home. I use about, I don't know, about 5 basic colours really, and all the rest are mixed. The basic colours are sort of, there's a Prussian blue, usually a Van Dyke brown, there's a crimson, there's a quinacridone yellow, and occasionally the mauve, because I'm using a lot of mauves. I'll go in sort of spasms of using one colour, and I tend to sort of carry on using that colour throughout a picture. And the neutral tint is the basic colour that runs all the way through, which is a purpley grey, which is a nice colour actually. But all the rest of the colours, greens, I never use a green. The greens are always mixed, and most of the other colours, if I occasionally need them, like cerulean blue, I might just squeeze a little bit on the tube, out of the tube, and sort of just a flicker colour in, or one of the brighter reds, like a Windsor red or a vermilion, and just flick that in.
This here, the fishwives in the harbour, their husbands been out, caught the daily catch. You'll see the fish, a lot of them wriggling about. Look at that there, the fish, you know, that's the sort of thing that you see. You just walk into a room and you know that's Malta because it's got that life of Malta in it. Very good indeed. When you're with him, he's always saying, look at this, look at that. He's got a superb eye.
Rubber sheeting's nice as a shape. What's that down there? And even these panels, these little bits. And when you get round onto all this paraphernalia is lovely. All these little bits and pieces through there, and the rust on there, the ropes, every single bit there. The detail is phenomenal, really. Right the way through that, isn't it? Really is good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and all this, look at this. It's a bit of an old container, look, obviously an ice box. A great big old ice box there that's been sort of put in the wash tank. And look at this here. The rubbish there, look, all them chains and bits and pieces. That's brilliant. That's brilliant around there. As long as you don't get flooded. This is really tertiary and dirty colours, and you come across colours like this which are brilliant. And the old pot there, everything's good. And these shapes, look. Terrific. Terrific excitement, really. Everywhere is excitement. It's really good. It really is excellent. Without the beach and the lovely colours of the pebbles and everything else, everything's right, really. You don't have to go anywhere and just draw. It's excellent, really. Watercolour is a beautiful medium. It works because it's translucent. The paint, if you paint sort of so I put there, that's thick, really thick. What you could do is that, so you get a nice texture, which is so you can see the white coming through that way. You can get it thinner and thinner if that's, put a blob there, and I'll get that thinner and thinner and thinner, and you can wash right the way through. So, this is basically a wash technique, really. That's sort of, so the graduation of colour is lovely. You can paint wet on wet, which is sort of, you can paint on top of that, so you can get a lovely sort of colour coming through there. There's a raw sienna coming through there, which is quite nice. Or through that dark area, it gives it a sort of, you can see the variation in colour there. And another thing you can do, which is quite nice, you can blot these colours, so you can get a sort of, take the colour right out, so you can get a very thin colour there, and really sort of flood it there. That's lovely. These are just simple, and if that was taken with this very nice goldy colour you can put on there, you can see what happens. Look, you can get a sort of, you can get a lovely colour appearing there, which is very nice. It sort of, it can flood in, it goes slightly. That's a beautiful range of colours there, isn't it? Coming through, you know, you put a little dot, you can blot that right out, so you've got another sort of colour range. You can start bringing blues in. This is what colour does. Look at the lovely colour range you get in there. Look at that, that's brilliant. Really, it's very good. It's a very nice colour. Get it a bit stronger there, so you can go right through that colour range, and you really get a good sort of variation in colour with watercolour, which you just cannot do it with oils. And look the way the paper shines through. It's shining through all the time. If you blotty that like I do with a crinkly or something, you get another nice shaded area through there. The range of colours in there are tremendous, really. And there's also wax is quite good because you can't see wax there, which is that's just an ordinary candle being painted on there. So if I take a colour, well, I'll take that mauvey colour and brush over there. It's like sort of, you get this lovely texture coming through there. That's what, which is nice, which is similar to the one up there, but it's it gives you all this lovely mottled surface. I like the shapes of the groins. The groins are lovely shapes along here, and all this detail. And what's the name? If I can get back and get that area in there, that'd be ideal, because it all converges into a nice central point. So it should make an incredibly good composition, really. Some nice old bits. It's a bit damp here. I need something to sit on. Just finding the right spot, really. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's fine there. That's lovely. Grab this old pot. Tuck in about there. It's just finding the right spot. If you can get exactly in the right place, you can really get a good composition because it really leads you into the picture itself. That's what I'm after all the time, something that leads you into the picture, the shape of that drawing. It runs diagonally across there, hits that one comes up from that side, and the old detail leads you right back into the over to the fish sheds right at the far end, which is excellent really.
The other two here are once again Maltese studies. This one here is the harbour at Mapleston in Malta. You see there them rebuilding a boat. The boat hasn't been painted. You'll see the construction of the boat, the timbers there. His observation is absolutely incredible. He just sees things that nobody else does. Shapes, people. The first time I saw them, I didn't like it to start with. I thought it was just just mind-blowing, you know, like the guy was on drugs or something like this. Absolutely. So vivid, so intense. I just grew to like them, and they're quite addictive, you know, really.
It's a lovely composition structurally, isn't it? Look at that sort of. And by the time I got, most of this will disappear because there'll be figures there, see, working. So you imagine that with all that lovely background. It's quite a complicated little area, isn't it? If you cut off to about there, well, I might extend it down there, so this might be right at the top of the page. So it'll work that way quite nicely, I think. And might even all the anchor chains and things will be in the foreground down here. This spot down the bottom there that we've already drawn before, and bits and pieces I can get in there that I know all about, that I've had in books before. It'll all be added to it. So eventually you'll see it become a complete picture then with figures and everything. We've seen the boat builders and they just put a new prop on the boat up there, which was very good. And what's nice about them, they get into extraordinary shapes because they have to twist into areas that they can reach underneath boats and over the top, leaning over sides and things like that. And it all helps. So, and they're all in there upstairs. Upstairs I keep them. So they're the sort of figures I use quite often. I'll have a little bit of that rock hill, please. How much did you want? Oh, not a great deal, really, just what's that?
Well, places work out about £1 a piece in money.
Oh, no, yeah, that'd probably do us, I think.
You one of them?
Yeah. Anyway, cheers. Many thanks.
That's an interesting one. That's the road menders in Tenerife. Again, you see these what appear to be exaggerated poses, but if you actually looked at some road menders, you would see that sort of pose on them.
The men are lifting heavy loads or appear to be lifting heavy loads. They tend to be making walls or knocking nails in or lifting anchor chains, or so that they're using these muscles. And I exaggerate them considerably, so the arms are sort of almost sort of, you know, 5 or 6 times bigger than they would be in real life, and the heads are smaller, so that exaggerates the bodies even more. He works hard, doesn't he? Right, this is the sketchbook that I had at Felixstowe, and that's the original drawing. That was all worked out that you've already seen before. And once that drawing's, I take the drawing from there and transfer it just onto a very light pad with a pencil. I've got a pencil there, I haven't got a pencil there. But the drawing is through there, and instead of using the exact drawing that's there, I distort it. As you can see, I've made it sort of these great diagonal lines. So you've got a big V shape running down the middle of the picture, which is not obvious in there because that's upright and that's a plain drawing. So I've already started working and distorting the actual picture to get the shapes I want. So that area is the important area in the picture. That's the main area. So you've got all the interest centred in there, and I want to keep that. So I daren't touch that. So what I do, I take a sheet of tracing paper, and place it over the top. You've got the advantage with tracing paper, it doesn't affect the drawing underneath, and I can move it about wherever I want. That's the main thing about it, really. So because there's hardly any in the original drawing area in the front, I want to make this front much bigger, so I'm going to drop that right down to about there, the tracing paper, or I can even take it down to there, you see. But I'll drop it right down so I can use all this foreground, because I want to sort of figure, really sort of crouch down, so it covers this area up without destroying that important line. That's the important line again, that I want in the picture. So I'm going to get that figure worked on there, stretching his arms, and his great big arms over the top there like that, and the hands coming up. And what I'll have him sort of clutching hold of a net or something, so you've got a nice sort of lot of textures in the middle there in the front of the picture. And the other thing about it, I really want that sort of line and that line almost lined up really, so if I can get that sort of lining up, so you've got that great sort of strength through there, and that strength through there might be better with that line through there. So that echoing line goes straight through if you look. I could even twist that a fraction as well, which I quite often do, so your eye goes clink, 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 and all those lines are linked up right the way through the picture. Then if I carry on with that and bring that through there, I can distort or put something in there that that's not in the picture, just a line. So it makes the eye. So you've got this lovely sort of well, not quite vertical, it's sort of at an angle, picking up, and this other figure there stretched through there. So the figure becomes interlocked really with the background straight away. When this big leg over there and perhaps a bit in there that comes there. So as I said, the advantage with the tracing paper now is I could sort of say, well, you ought to go up there a little bit, that figure, so he just overlaps that line. So, or I can even turn it round and say it might be nicer that side, that figure. So it's quite interesting. But I've got a big area there that I want to sort of put a figure in, so I know roughly what I'm going to do. So I'll get a figure quite high up. So if I'm going to take that as the top of the painting now, so the painting is going to come sort of into that sort of shape there. I can extend it a fraction there, make that a bit longer, bring that across, so there's more in this area. Then I can get quite a tall figure in there, sort of really standing strong through there. Bring that through there like that, and the shoulder coming down. Right, and it'd be better if it just overlapped. But see that line again is running parallel with that line again, so it's all quite carefully balanced. If I take that through there and that through there. Bring the arm through there, and I'll get the hand in there, through there, that's it, that's fine like that. And that running parallel, so they've got these verticals, and that will come down there, through there, and I'll get this great big leg coming over there, so it breaks that area up a bit more. I can have a net hanging on there if I want. So I can play around with the picture considerably, I can put a window in there, I could say, oh, it needs a mast, another stop there, so another vertical. So the tracing paper's doing all the work for me now, which is quite interesting. Once that's done, I take a pen, and this is simple. It's a mechanical process that sort of artists have used for years and years, and just square the picture up like that from corner to corner. And this is a means of transferring it to whatever size I'm going to make the picture. This is, when I say it was 8 by 8.5. So if I call it double, I can make it 16 by 17, kind of the picture. To make it bigger, or I can double it again, 24 by, and so on, to whatever size picture I want, which it'll probably be a big picture because it's got quite a lot of details in, so probably around about full imperial. As close as I can get to full imperial will make this quite an important painting.
When I was at Hornsey, College of Art, the first things you have to do is anatomy. You have to learn about anatomy and sort of find all the bones and the muscles, etc. and so forth in the body. So you can learn to draw the figure accurately, and you know exactly what you're going to do. And we had to go to University College Hospital in Gower Street, and they have anatomy room there, especially for sort of surgeons, I suppose, really, to sort of give them all the details. What's there? When you go in this room, it's got glass bottles all the way around the shelf it had, and some of the bottles had livers in and sort of hearts in, and all bits of the anatomy floating around in sort of formaldehyde. And he used to take arms out of fridges and put them down onto the tables on the tops and open them up and skin up, so you can see all the muscles, and they could remove the muscle and you can see the bone structure. And it was mainly for surgeons and things like that, but we occasionally sort of went there to do sort of anatomy lessons. And we had to learn every single bone in the body and every muscle. So it was a very, very thorough training. Oh, it's mainly to see Stanley Spencer's establishment, which is sort of where he used to live, and all the views he painted, and there's a lot of affinities I've got with Spencer's work. So that's basically the reason we're coming to Cookham. Many moons ago, when I was sort of a student at Hornsey College of Art, it was in 1958, 59, just before he died, Stanley Spencer. He died in December, I think, 59. And I came here because I wrote my thesis on him, with the connection with Bruegel. I was connecting the two artists together. And I came here, and being young, most youngsters like footballers and things like that as heroes, but Stanley Spencer was quite a big hero of mine at that time. And I came here with my mother, and we came up through the path, and I got to the door, and I lost my nerve, and I couldn't knock on the door, I was scared. So I sort of backed off, and my mother came behind me and banged on the door, and she left. So I was facing him sort of straight away when the door opened, and we had a little talk and discussions and everything, and he says, "I'll be painting tomorrow down by the church if you want to come and see me." So I went and saw him the next day down by the church and saw him then. He painted like an old master, really. He worked, because he's one of these English eccentrics that sort of, most people at that time were painting sort of like like Impressionist painters, because the Impressionists were so important at that time. They'd been brought over by Roger Fry to England, all these sort of, that sort of period, and everybody was taken by them. But he was a throwback, almost pre-Raphaelite to Raphael and all the ones going right back to Leonardo, really. And he used to work with minute detail, which was out at the time. And he used to square his canvas up, and he'd draw every single thing in and build it up slowly as a painting. Like if you see the Raphael cartoons and things like that, he would work exactly the same way. And that's the way I work at the moment. So it's, you know, so I've obviously developed that way from him. It's a laborious way of working in some ways, because it's a lot easier to get a brush and a blank canvas and just go and put it all in with no trouble at all. Quite simple and easy, but I have to draw it and work it all out and construct a picture, so it takes time. I work on a big sheet of paper. This is full imperial and it's Bockingford, and it weighs 250 grams. It's very heavy. It's almost like a thin card. The drawing is squared up just diagonally from corner to corner. So once that's squared up, then I can transfer it onto this paper, because this is squared exactly the same, so I can draw each little triangle exactly the same from the original drawing. Once that's completed, I can sort of then work out the colour system, and the colour system in this case will be mauves and browns, and because I want a uniform pattern, really. It's the picture becomes a uniform thing. I never use local colour. Local colour is not important for me. It's the two colours that balance up together that I think this picture will come. Once I've covered it virtually with the mauves and browns or variations, then I can introduce reds and pinks or blues or any other colour I like. But I always start with, almost inevitably, with just two colours and work all the way through.
We live above the bride shop, and George has a little studio at the back, a little cottage that we've got. And if he comes into the shop to make tea, then he's marooned up in the flat, because if there are any beautiful brides in a state of undress, I just won't let him down. And the same happens with me. If he's got a male model upstairs, I just knock on the door and say, "Your coffee's ready." I never go in there either. So we both run the gauntlet, really.
all the figures in my composition are sort of, nowadays, are based on the experience I've gained from life drawing, etc. in the college. I still do a little bit of life drawing every so often to keep my hand in, and it's an incredible discipline because you have to concentrate, and every single stroke is a critical stroke in life drawing. But the knowledge you gain from life drawing and the anatomy part of the body and the structure, I put to good use with the figures I use in my paintings, which tend to be distorted considerably because they do all the work in the painting. They sort of lead the eye into the picture and they give it a monumental feeling. Yeah, if you look at most of my work, really, well, virtually all of it, it's based on lights and darks all the way through the picture. So it goes from dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. So it becomes a sort of, you get terrific contrasts all the way through, which makes it a bit more sparkling, I feel, as opposed to sort of all over one colour range or tone. It's the tone really. But it gives an overall effect, like a jigsaw really. You still get a nice bright clear colour at the end, it's nice. What I do, I'll put that on as a thin wash really, and then I blot it, take all the colour out, because I tend to work over the top again with another colour to get textures and patterns on there. So if that area is like that, then I'll take a toilet roll, tons of toilet roll, I'm afraid I'll get through. And it's blotted out. Slightly change the colour, because these are planks of the groin that we sort of, the sea breakers that I'm painting now. I'll put that on there. If I blot that not quite as hard, or have a textured piece of blotting paper or tissue like this, you can sort of, and just gently go over, you get a lovely sort of effect, which is very nice. It gives a lovely sort of graining, almost like a wood grain, which is excellent now. Scrapyards are a magic subject really, because they're not like anything else. They're made up of bits of pieces of jagged metal or twisted cars, which you don't normally see in reality. They're removed from reality, and the shapes they make, because there's a thing called negative shapes, which is when you get two objects together, like two hands like that. If you join them together, the shape they make in the middle, like that triangle, is called a negative shape, and you get thousands of negative shapes with these bits and pieces of jumbled mess all sort of stacked one on top of the other, and they're lovely, and they're usually dark, so you get a sort of like a Clisson effect, and you get a pattern work that's flowing through it all the time, and it creates such a visual sort of impact that you've got a masterpiece or a painting or whatever you like to call it before, just by looking at it. So it saves you a lot of work, because it creates all this pattern and all the flow and all the design, and it's all there in one piece really. you see that as the face start appearing, then I blot that. So it's just a power, it just makes it a fraction darker than the other. Then I can work back on top again. And keep working on top till you get a really good form and structure into the face. Start filling the bone and sort of things like that in there. You keep blotting it and build it up. Beginning again now, if I can blot it again, you see. And a bit of the air there. You can start getting a bit smaller detail. I need a smaller brush. And start working down slowly. That bit comes in there now, round there. Now there's about 3 layers on there now, at least, that's sort of beginning to work, and it's slowly getting darker and richer in areas. And I can alter it wherever I want to alter it. And a shadow under there, it needs a good shadow under there. And you can begin to see the form building up, and the structure of the face, the bones working, and all the pattern. And not only that, you've got to start bringing in the light. So I'll paint this area here, which is bring another mauvey colour back in there again. And I'm still keeping it this very tight colour range, which is the main thing I want. So there's a good bit of pigment in there, as opposed to that which is taken all out. But working on that area now, so because I want to carry on working on that area, I'll dry it with a hairdryer, which is the quickest method. And doing that, I can work directly on top again with the same colour and start creating the form that I did, exactly the same as I did on the face.
As an art critic, one can become very blasé at looking at art, going to hundreds of exhibitions a year. One sees so many pictures that have no impact at all. So it's quite exciting when I come across a painter that really gets my heart beating. About 15 years ago, I went to the Royal Institute of Painters in Watercolours and suddenly fell in love with the work of George Large. Over the years, I've seen him get stronger and stronger in his technique. He's very fond of knitting together figurative and topographical. And here we see a typical example of Cookham Station, a subject that probably wouldn't appeal to most artists. But George has taken a fairly bland subject and by knitting together 2 figures in the foreground has given the whole composition a great feeling of strength and almost a sculptural feeling to it. You can see in this composition a classic example of how George uses very strong primary colours to bring the whole composition together, and we see this with the red. We've got the red in the foreground here with this simple fence, and then the red on the bridge handrail, and again round the edge of the building, pulling the whole composition in for the viewer, which just gives a lot more impact again. He's taken his influence, I think, from works that were being produced in the 1930s and 40s, people like William Roberts, who tended to make their figures very strong looking. But he's, over the years, developed a very, very distinctive style of his own, which I've come to appreciate more and more. I have seen in the last 2 years or so a change in George's direction. The figure has become the domineering subject, gone as the topographical, and he's now focusing increasingly on the figures. I love the way he's created these very powerful, chiseled out hands with the stamp collectors. Each stamp is really a little painting in its own right, because George has put tremendous detail into each little work. A lot of them are Maltese stamps, as this one here through the magnifying glass, where George is much associated with. He often goes there to paint. And up here as well, we see the magnifying glass picking up the extra detail of the spotted shirt that the man's wearing. This, I think, is a wonderful composition. Something that you wouldn't immediately think of as an obvious subject to paint, but George has done it incredibly well. These images come from his mind rather than actually seeing people do it. But there's great subtleties you see all the time. I love the way he's got the tattoos, love, and across on the other hand, hate. And then a former girlfriend's perhaps name tattooed on the arm, saying Kate, with a model there. Again, we notice how the eyes are just black, rather almost like as if they're wearing masks. All these are little hallmarks that are very much typical of George Large. And again, we see a composition that is not obvious to many painters, taking a piece of machinery that's just laying in a field, neglected, rusting, and George has incorporated again a strong figure, this powerful arm coming over the machinery, working on it. It all has this tremendous strength to it. He has this incredible eye for composition. I don't think I've ever seen a George Large that doesn't work, which is quite unique amongst artists. And I'm quite convinced that over the years, George will be looked upon as one of the great figure painters bridging the 20th and 21st centuries.
This is a very nice room, really. It's circular at one end, which is incredibly unusual, really. There can't be many houses or built with a completely circular end. It was built like that originally because a road came either side of it. Now there's only one road, but it does create a lovely sort of end to the buildings, and it fits in beautifully with the big round tables. What's the name? And the paintings, we're running out of wall space, I'm afraid, at the moment, because there's paintings everywhere. We sat here one day, I don't know if my wife's spoken about it, but we sat here one day and there was 89 people in this room with all the paintings that have had characters in them, that sort of, and the bits and pieces all around, the little statues and bronzes we had. 89 people, so you'll never be alone in this room. Yeah, so we're laughing. Terrible. Everybody says that, right?
George ever draws me, I try to make it so I haven't got a double chin.
It looks a bit like it. You'll grow into it, John. Yeah. You'll grow into it. Eventually you'll like you. I think I'm incredibly lucky because I can't think of a better way of making a living. Art's not sort of inspiration. You have to sit down and really work at it.
The time I went home, I think.
You have to really struggle to make a picture sometimes, but you've got to do it. I work from 10 till 1 and 2 to 5 every day, virtually every sort of day of the year, really, including Saturdays and Sundays, weekends makes no difference. So I just sort of get up in the morning, I'm quite happy. I know what's going to happen in my brain up there that sort of, I've either got a picture on the go, or I know there's one on its way, and it's what you want to do. It's, you know, it's personal to you, and it's remarkable, really, that you can sort of do a painting that's very personal to me, and sort of what's that, and put it on the wall, and somebody will actually want to buy it, which is rather splendid, really. And it's, you know, I wouldn't swap it at all. And I expect I'll be still painting till if I reach 100, I'll still be painting like Renoir. They had to strap his brushes onto his hands to carry on painting, and it'd be that same with me, I'm afraid.